Okay. While this takes a minute here to finish loading so we get the comments on the left, we want to welcome everybody back from a spring break. Today is Wednesday, April 14th, 2021. My name is Greg Wojtyla, the Superintendent of North Tonawanda City Schools, and I am here to give our weekly update for North Tonawanda City Schools. So, the easy one first, while we let a couple people join in here. We have an update on spring sports. So the registration for the spring season is open in our Family ID system, which is on the webpage. Registration is open until April 18th, so please take advantage of that the rest of this week. The season will be May 3rd through June 25th for the following sports, which would be modified varsity and JV for baseball and softball, JV and varsity girls lacrosse, modified varsity boys lacrosse, varsity boys and girls track, varsity boys tennis, and JV varsity wrestling. So please go in and log in if you're interested in trying out for those sports. Again, it's open till the 18th, and the season is May 3rd through June 25th. Right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our back to school plan. The CDC put out a 3-foot approval about a month ago. New York State came out last week with their guidance. So we went through all that. And in some cases it works in our favor in New York State, in other cases not so much. But the good news is that starting the week of April 26th, May 3rd the latest, we're going to have a board meeting this evening and a union meeting this afternoon after this to finalize the details, and then we'll put everything out to parents. But our K-6 students will be coming back 4 days a week. The virtual students get to keep their current system and teachers in this model. And so we feel that's the best way to proceed, as well as gives us another week here to see what the COVID rates do and get everybody situated. The good news is if you are getting bused for your 2 days of hybrid now, you will qualify for 4 days of hybrid busing. So that's going to be our new full-time, and you'll go from hybrid of 2 days to 4 days of busing. So parents just need to be aware that we've been keeping the buses at about 18 to 20 students, and that's going to double now from 36 to 40. They'll have assigned seats. They'll be required to wear masks. So if you're not comfortable with that, you can transport your own child. If you're currently a hybrid student, you will stay hybrid till the end of the year. And if there's anyone, a full remote, not hybrid. So let's start again. If you're currently a full remote student, you'll stay full remote for the rest of the year. If you are hybrid and you want to go to remote because you're not comfortable with the new 3 feet distancing that we're moving to, you can go into full remote. But there will be no hybrid option for the 4 through 6. Now, the part that didn't work for us so great with New York State was that they adopted the CD guidelines, and we have 100 people in the county testing positive out of the 100,000. That's considered a high transmission rate, and under high transmission rate, they're recommending that we stay at 6 feet of distancing for grades 7 through 12. So we currently aren't projecting a time or a date that we can get the 7th through 12th graders back to 4 days a week. So we got to watch those rates. We get daily and weekly updates, and all the schools are ready to go. And the Department of Health superintendent knows that, Dan Stapleton, so he will give us a daily update, and when he thinks the trend is going to stay that way. Because we also mentioned that we don't want to bring back kids for a week and then the rates go back and we got to go back to 6 feet and send them back into hybrid. That would be too disruptive for everybody. So, but that doesn't apply to 4 through 6, and so we're going to do our final meetings today. As I mentioned, we have one with the board meeting this evening, and then the unions. We will also be doing sort of our public hearing on through Facebook for everybody to join in twice on April 21st, our regular 2 o'clock time, and then I'll do an evening one that will be a little bit earlier, probably around 5 o'clock, for parents to get their questions answered on this reopening that we're going with. So I covered the busing, I covered the 7-12 and the 4 through 6. So let's see what questions we have. The kids are going to go to 4 days a week at the end of the month. You get your specific directions and days and times it's starting at the end of this week, because all the meetings and all the finalizations will be done after the board meeting tonight. Yeah, so it could be as early as tomorrow for when the date will be. We're currently looking at April 26th or May 3rd. The reason for the week difference there is we have state testing starting in grades 4 through 6, so we want to cross our T's and dot our I's with that before we bring them back. We also have to maintain 6 feet of distancing in the cafeterias, and some new desks were purchased so that we can make sure we have a seat for everybody in the classrooms as well as the cafeterias where needed so that they're safe. And those should be coming in at the end or middle of next week. Only K6. Will the kids be able to go to Boys and Girls Club after school for the 4 days? We have reached out to Boys and Girls Club for that, and basically they do it by number of students is how many they staff it by. So let's say it's 1 for every 10 students. So now we know that that's going to double to 20. So they may to get more staff in line, and we're waiting to hear back from them. But our plan is to have those in place where we can. So full remote kids have to stay remote for the rest of the year, K6. That is correct. So it's either full remote or 4 days. That is correct as well. And someone said great news. So I anticipate after today's meetings, which I have one after this meeting and one this evening with the board, the dates will be set, finalized. We'll know when the desks are being delivered, when the classrooms can get the added desks added back in, and we'll do it. So it could be a phased in where K3 starts 1 week and 4-6 the next, or they'll all be on the same week, and we'll let you know that. Let's see, what else do we have? Budget's coming. That's the focus primarily of this evening's board meeting. Then we'll be getting out that information to everybody in the NT Spirit. It is on line 2 under the 20 to 21, 22 school year budget. You can look it up there. And voting will take place in May as usual. You'll have to wear a mask when you come in to vote. But it will be at the Fine Arts Center on Meadow Drive. Okay, do you have any update on summer workshops? So those are now in the works for planning. A lot of the money, if you're watching the news, that school districts received are grant funded, which means it goes away after a certain amount of time, and it should be spent on closing the gap from this past year when kids weren't in school full time. So we're developing them for the different levels, and we should have that information probably not until May, how they'll run and where you register and what weeks they are, but that's going to be starting the planning on that and the finalizing for that the rest of the month of April here. Will the current 6th graders get a trip or anything? Best bet there is to talk with the homeschool, who usually arranges that with the teachers at NTI. We are still limited. I know the next question that'll probably come up is prom and graduation, right? Because we're working on that as well. So while things are opening back up, there are restrictions for when food is served. There are restrictions for when you're indoor versus outdoor, and all those things have to be followed. The other problem with a 6th grade trip on a bus is right now they're all spread on different runs going home. And when you have 200 plus sixth graders that could be in session, that's a lot of buses to keep the numbers down from what we currently would go on a field trip. So I have to work with the principals on that and see what they have planned for anything along those lines. Could be something at the building special for them or something like that. For middle school, can we still do hybrid? Middle school and high school is stuck in hybrid right now. We can't go back to 4 days until the infection rate in the county goes down. So UPK is part of the bring back at the end. So when we set our date for starting, UPK will also set that date, and then they will communicate with you how that's going to work with them. But they will go from the hybrid model they're currently in into a 4-day session for our UPK students. Okay. So prom and graduation, as I started, prom's a little bit trickier because there's usually food involved, right? And that restricts things more and how you can serve the food and all that piece. And same thing with graduation, even though food isn't usually served, we have, like I mentioned, that 225 students, and if they all bring 2 guests only, which is not what we've currently done, we've pretty much let them bring as many as they want at our park. There's restrictions. The larger you go, they are going to require proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test within the last 48 hours. So that puts restrictions on families and parents and all that stuff. So all that is still in the planning. We did get news yesterday that we don't think the guidance will go more restrictive, go backwards, but we also don't think it's going to lessen before prom and graduation time in June. So now that we have the guidelines for indoor and outdoor and under 100 or over 200 and all those things that go along with that, we will plan. As a matter of fact, this evening with the board, I'm going to share with them some of those guidelines and what we're looking at. So those plans will be out. But if you are a parent of a senior, the graduation weekend is still the same graduation weekend, which is the last weekend in June. So we won't change the date for your planning. But if it's going to be something outdoors, we may have you reserve Saturday and Sunday if we need a rain date. So if we typically do it on Sunday, and if the forecast is calling for thunderstorms and we wanted to do an outdoor event, we may move that to Saturday a few days ahead of time. But that's going to be dependent on the weather. So if my hybrid student couldn't get a bus because we had to send him on the opposite days from his last name for childcare, can he now get the bus if they go back 4 days? My quick answer, Dawn, is no. What I kind of confirmed with transportation, but we're still planning before this starts, is that anyone who currently gets a bus 2 days would move to 4 days. So if you have not been approved for the bus, we're thinking no. But of course, we have to look at each run and how many kids are using it and all those types of things. The guidance on busing is a little wishy-washy on purpose, I think, to give us some wiggle room. But we don't want to also put everyone at risk and get a bus infected, and then you got the bus for a day and now you're quarantined for 10 days because you were on a bus that had too many kids on it. So we got to be careful, but we'll get back to you on that. Okay, so they're asking 4 days is better than 2, but why not 5? I've heard deep cleaning isn't that something that should be done after student hours. So we do disinfect every night now since COVID. Really the reason for it is for the remote students. They have a class that they're tied to at the elementary level, and to uproot all those students and start them for the last month or 2 of school with a brand new teacher. We feel that it would be more disruptive to the K-3 especially students to start over with a new teacher with new expectations and have them learn remote only. So we're going to keep them with their current teachers, which means they need that day to reach out and catch them up. Curious about kindergarten graduation. We didn't do those ceremonies, and I have a feeling we're not going to do them this year in the building, only because we could probably do it with the class, but but there would be no visitors allowed with the restrictions that we have, because at the schools that you're going to, the restrictions for outside people coming in and being at 20% capacity of a room and all those things make it very difficult to do. If that changes, we'll let you know, but I wouldn't anticipate that you'll be invited to the school for a kindergarten graduation ceremony. Do I still need to fill the form online if one of my children is already 4 days? No. If you're already 4 days, that's accounted for because you're already in a special class which can accommodate that, or you were spoken to about other requirements why they needed to be here 4 days already. So those won't change. You'll still come the 4 days. I think I missed anything up there. So I just remind everybody that they have the rest of this week basically to register for spring sports in May. And if you're interested in baseball, softball, lacrosse, track, tennis, or wrestling, currently you need to get those registration forms in through the Family ID on our webpage by the 18th, and then practice will start in May right away for those teams, and we'll get those up and running. It's a late season. We usually aren't doing sports up until June 25th, but trying to get everybody something this year with COVID, so the section made like a spring too. So hopefully everybody takes advantage of that. Okay, so remember that sort of the time when you talk with other parents this week, and anyone else in the neighborhood, or if you're a grandparent watching and you talk to your son or daughter about what's going on, that on April 21st will be sort of like more of a public hearing where people can send me their questions and get everything answered for more details on this return to 4 days of instruction here in North Tonawanda. We'll start with the 2 o'clock Facebook Live on Wednesday the 21st, and then we'll schedule one at 5 in the evening for parents getting home from work. So we hope that this is good news. If you have questions, you can always call us and we'll keep you updated. We have a few things to finish this evening, and then I would anticipate you'll start seeing things in your student learning platform of Seesaw or Schoology. And we'll be doing a global call next week to remind everybody and get the word out. So please share this as you can, and we will see you all back here next Wednesday twice. That'll be at 2 o'clock and at 5 o'clock. Thank you, and stay safe.